some news just in tonight. Eskom issuing a statement dismissing allegations that the country is heading for a complete collapse of the electricity grid. Yesterday, EFF leader Julius Malema claimed during a media briefing that a complete blackout was imminent. But the power utility says that while a risk of a complete blackout is part of running a large system, the likelihood of that happening is extremely low. Eskom says that it has contingency plans in place which include the various stages of power cuts. South Africa is currently on stage 6 of load shedding. Let's get the view now of Professor Hartmut Winkler, who's with the University of Johannesburg in the Department of Physics. A very good evening to you, Prof. Grateful for your time as always. So, in a time when everyone is so frustrated and at their wits' end with the power crisis, who do you believe on whether or not a blackout is imminent?
In this case, I tend to believe Eskom much more. They are quite right that the danger is very small. I wouldn't say it's impossible. It can happen given that the power stations in this country are in a rather perilous state. And if we have several breakdowns at the same time and Eskom isn't paying attention properly, then we could risk that. But in order to get a total blackout, yes, you really need to would have a situation where literally one station collapses after another, and there are mechanisms in place that are supposed to safeguard it. The most important one being load shedding itself, provided Eskom always keeps the load shedding levels in such a way that the electricity they're able to supply is bigger than the electricity that's being used. This can't really happen. But if they have a sudden collapse of some power station and nobody's paying attention and not able to introduce power cuts quickly enough, then this could happen. But I think it's extremely unlikely. I don't want to say it can't happen. Things can always happen, but it's extremely unlikely. It's certainly not the thing that we are about to face. Plus, I think there's a misconception that as one gets too close to stage 8, that's the edge of the abyss. It's not. One can go to higher stages of load shedding. Up to technically stage 16, although stage 16 means the whole system is off anyway.
And what do you foresee, Prof, as the most likely scenario then, where the power cuts are concerned? We can go to higher stages, but how high we will actually go remains largely unknown. Is that right?
That's right. It depends very much on what's happening on the ground at the various power stations. One may be lucky, even though as I mentioned, the power stations are in not a good shape at all. But you may just be lucky that they literally will work throughout the winter, or at least one or two of them. We may be unlucky and find that the situation is worse. I'd hate to come across as a betting person and make predictions, but what I would imagine is the most likely scenario that we're going to go down to stage 8 this winter. The situation slightly improving over Christmas, and the next year will probably be similar to this year again. And towards the end of 2024, I see hopefully some kind of improvement. That's provided that the Eskom is successful in repairing Kusile and getting the Koeberg nuclear upgrade finished in time. Plus, there'll be a couple of solar and wind farms that should be coming online towards the end of next year. The situation will get better. We'll still have load shedding. We'll probably still have load shedding for a good 5 years, and hopefully not as bad as we are having now. But this year and next year, if you like, the bottom of the curve, provided the situation's handled reasonably, I think that we hopefully can be a little bit more optimistic as from next year onwards.
And you say we could have these power cuts for at least another 5 years. It's very different, isn't it, to the language that government has wanted to employ in the last year or so when talking about load shedding. In fact, some of the figures thrown out have been around a year to a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And now the language around that, I think, has evolved to basically phrasing, and I'm paraphrasing here, that suggests that that would only mean things getting better, but not an actual end to the daily burden of load shedding. Why 5 years, do you think?
I think 5 years, because what we are looking at is that if a government goes ahead with its projected plan to start building a whole lot of renewable energy power stations, you can't do all of them immediately. It typically takes 2 to 3 years to finish one of those. You can't build them all there. I don't think there's enough capacity to do that. But gradually, I think in about 5 years' time, if sufficient have been built by then, and if the nuclear plant is up and running, that's the existing one, Kuberg, and the coal plants are at least Medupi and Kusile are somehow functioning, then I think the situation would be better. But yes, government definitely, we've had ministers saying that load shedding can be fixed in 6 months, load shedding will be finished by the end of this year, and so on. I think it's unrealistic, and I gather from a piece I read this weekend is that in the ANC themselves, they are seeing that this is a dangerous way to approach the next election, as it effectively is making promises that they can't keep.
And are the people in charge, Prof, pardon me, are the people in charge, i.e. Eskom and government, are they speaking plainly and honestly about the extent to which we are in trouble where electricity is concerned, and how realistically, how long it'll take to get out? I mean, the Minister for Electricity, Hosian Soramkhopa, keeps saying it's going to be a difficult winter, but it's likely to be a difficult 2023 altogether.
Yes. Yes, it will be. Unfortunately, government doesn't always speak with exactly the same voice, and certainly different ministers seem to have very different solutions to get us out of this situation. Overall, I wouldn't believe anyone who tells us that they have this magic fix and that they can sort out Eskom immediately. I think also Eskom is about to appoint a new CEO. I think we should be clear from the start that this is no messiah. This is nobody who's going to turn Eskom around. The best they can do at the moment is try and hold the situation in the hope that they'll be able to do a bit more in the year to come. So we really shouldn't pin our hopes on any particular individual having some sort of a magic solution to the problem. The problems are really very widespread, and it's not something that you can fix quickly.
And when Eskom holds then what it's calling a state of the system briefing this coming Thursday this week, in fact, what do you expect they're going to tell us that is new? Is there anything they can say that is new about where we are and the potential interventions?
I'm not quite sure what exactly they're going to tell us. I think for now they've actually done reasonably well to keep us at no worse than stage 6 in that. They might tell us that given that we are now moving into winter proper, we should get ready for higher stages of load shedding. They might also tell us about progress on particular fronts regarding some of the repair work they've been doing. But I'm really not expecting any dramatic new announcements from them.
Minister Kweta Mandashe today, Minister for Minerals and Energy, in the budget vote address before Parliament, mentioned two things. He spoke about how in the second quarter they're going to request for proposals for the procurement of gas to power totaling 3,000 megawatts, and then in the fourth quarter of the year they are going to issue a request, he says, for proposals for the procurement of about 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power. That is going to be key in the next, 12 to 24 months forecast, right? But when you look at all of that, how quickly can we get it on board? Because these would be just proposals.
It's not just that. To build a new nuclear power station will take at least 10 years. So if this really does go through, and there's a whole lot of hoops that they've got to go through, given how the nuclear deal back in 2016-17 was messed up, it's going to be very difficult to make any progress on that front. But even if it does go well, that's the typical time it takes to build a nuclear power station. One just needs to look at what's happening elsewhere in the world. As far as gas is concerned, I don't know if they're talking about more of those power ships. I think what they had been planning to do is probably about as far as they can go. So if you build a new gas plant, yes, that's possible. That again is going to take quite a long time though. So none of those options look like they're going to assist us in the short term or even medium term.
Thank you very much, Professor Hartmut Winkler with the University of Johannesburg's Physics Department. Thank you.